Another good morning here. I'm in Carabel, Florida, and I will be leaving here to make that one trip where I have to do a 70-mile run out in the Gulf of Mexico. Uh, there's a couple of other boats that are also leaving. They're also on the greatloop, but they are actually bigger boats. They're one of them is a 42-footer, the other one's a 38-footer. But they normally don't cross into Stachahachie, Florida, which is what I'm doing. I'm going to be heading 70 miles out, heading east to Stachahachie, Florida, which, I'm on the upper part of the panhandle here, and when I get to Stachahachie, I'll be heading south along the Florida coast. This here crossing is done by a lot of other boaters that are on the greatloop, but what they do, they carry enough fuel that they'd make a straight shot out to Tarpon Springs, Florida, and it's a 2-day trip for them. So they're gonna travel halfway, drop anchor out in the Gulf, and then next morning continue on and head into Tarpon Springs. I don't have the fuel to do that, nor do I want to be stuck overnight out in the Gulf. So I made a decision that I would have to go at it alone. No other boats are going towards Stachahachie, so I was going to have to take the trip myself, by myself, only boat. Boat's been running pretty good on the whole trip, so I don't really have a problem making the crossing, thinking, something might go wrong, because so far everything's been running pretty good. Been pretty reliable motor. I checked the weather this morning. We've got 1.5 foot seas out there, not too windy, and actually supposed to get a little sunshine, but it is partly cloudy. Either way, I'm decided I'm going to go ahead and make the crossing. 1.5 foot seas are really no big deal for the boat. It can easily handle it. It's just going to be bouncing around a little bit more than normally would. Make a 70-mile crossing, averaging let's say 10 to 15 miles an hour, depending on the seas. I'm looking at about a 6-hour, 7-hour run from here in Carabel. Should be okay. Should be all right. No problems. I'm not worried about it. Weather is good. I carry enough fuel to do the 70 miles. So I'm not going to worry about whether I've got enough fuel. Actually, I carry about 120 miles of fuel with me. So I should do 70 miles and have plenty of fuel left over to get into Stachahachie and fill up my tanks again. So also probably stop somewhere out there. If the weather's calm enough, stop for about an hour, grab something to eat, and then keep moving. As traveling 6 hours, bound to get hungry sooner or later. So I don't like to eat and drive at the same time, because that way I get distracted from what I'm doing. I'd rather just pull over, stop the engine. I drift for a little while, for about 30-45 minutes. I'll be drifting, just so I could grab something to eat. Here it is coming. Now I'm coming out of the inlet for Carabel here, and you can see those signs up front, forward here. Once I get out there, that's the open Gulf, and I'll go ahead and take a compass reading when I get out there. uh, because I won't be seeing land for a few hours. What I do is I take a compass reading from open water in the Gulf, which is a few minutes here away. I take a compass reading to Stachyahatchee, Florida, and that's how I kind of get close to. I don't have to be right on at Stachyahatchee, because once I get closer, I'll be able to see landmarks out there, and then I'll be able to see the markers, the channel markers, and everything. So I just have to get close enough where I can start identifying Stachyahatchee, and there's really not a whole lot out there to try and figure out where it is, but there are some channel markers out in the Gulf, which is quite a ways away from Stachyahatchee, that guide you into Stachyahatchee, because it is low water in some areas over there, so you don't want to run aground. You don't want to run the risk of running aground. Even here, we're still following the channels. You can see there's a red buoy here right there to my port side, so you have to stay on the port side of these buoys, the red ones anyway. Green ones are to your starboard. And once you get out, like I said, out on the open water, you take a reading and you head toward that reading on your compass. You're not going to be able to keep your boat on that same heading constantly. You're constantly going to be adjusting port side, starboard side. You just have to try and keep that heading for as long as you can, or until you start seeing again channel markers or some kind of landmark or something that defines where you're at, and then you can start heading toward those things, and that's how you end up getting into Stachyahatchee. But because, like I said, I'm going to be out in the Gulf, open water, I'm not going to see land for I would imagine 2-3 hours, maybe somewhere around there. I'll be losing all the land behind me, nothing in front of me but water. And on the port and starboard side, and on the port side, it's part of the Apalachicola Bay that they call. That's where a lot of oysters are grown and everything there, because they have the water coming out of the Suwannee River. And it's a good oyster bay there. A lot of good oysters come out of there. But I'm still far enough to where I might see part of it as I'm going across, but eventually I'm going to lose sight of that land also. So here we go, going out. I also have to mention, or forgot to mention, that I stayed a couple of days here because of weather. Had to watch 1 or 2 days where I had a little window where I could have taken off and decided not to. Just in the event that something did go wrong, I decided, no, I'm going to stay one more day. And as you can see now, it's a beautiful day out today. Everything looks nice, no clouds, sun is out, water's still pretty good, not too choppy. Here we are actually already out on the Gulf and running right at about 11 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour here. You can see the boat going up and down here. That's a 1.5 foot wave that I was telling you about. And as you can see, there's nothing left or right. It's all open water, which it's not scary unless your engine gives out or something like that. But you can see there to my port side, there's really barely see the coastline out there. But again, you lose sight of land on both sides. You can see the wakes there coming up and down. You can see there. Now these are probably right at about a little bit of about a foot long or a foot high. Earlier today they were up to about 1.5 feet. So it did kind of calm down a little bit with the winds blowing, coming. Now the winds are blowing right now from east and they're heading west. So the closer I get to land, the water will start calming down a little bit, because then you're going to have the land hitting the bar. And here we go, 6 hours, 7 hours after, finally came into Stachyahatchee. And now I'm trying to find me a place to stay. As you can see, it's a little cloudy out there, starting to get a little dark. Found me a little place, dropped anchor, decided to stay here overnight, because there was some docks right here, some public docks, and I thought, oh, I'll just stay close to them, and I just dropped anchor. Well, the one thing, my one rule, that is always check your tides, and Roland decided not to check his tides, and here we are, hitting on the bottom. This was the following morning. After I dropped anchor, I didn't realize I was in that shallow water. You can see the docks right behind me there, which I should have tied up to the docks and just stayed there overnight, but I thought, no, I'll just drop anchor somewhere. It's no big deal. This was a nice little cove. Thought I'd get in here. But anyway, as you can see, I'm stuck here, and then I started thinking, well, I'd have to sit here for about 4 or 5 hours for the tide to start coming up, and then I might be able to go ahead and get out of here. And the more I thought about it, I thought, well, I do have Towboat US that'll tow me. Since I'm a member, it won't cost me anything to get towed out of here. So I went ahead and called Towboat US, and you can barely see it, but here comes the boat. Now, obviously, because I'm aground, he can't come all the way up to me, okay? So we have to try and figure a way for him to throw me a line, and he's too far away. Now, right here, I'm already getting towed. And the way we did it is he came up fairly close to where I was, but not running the boat aground. And because he couldn't throw a line to me so that I could hook up the tow line to the boat, he asked me if I had a fishing rod. And I said, actually, yeah, I do have a fishing rod. He said, well, good, take off the hook, put a weight on the fishing line, and throw me the line. So it was just like I was doing some fishing. Took me about 3 or 4 times, because I didn't want to throw it so hard that I was going to end up hitting him or with the weight or something. So I was kind of gauging how hard to throw it. So it took me about 3 or 4 times, and then he finally got his boat hook and was able to catch the line, my fishing line. Brought the fishing line up to his tow line, hooked it up together to that, and I reeled in the tow line to my boat, and then I hooked up to my cleat, and he was able to tow me out. So that was pretty smart of him. I never would have thought of doing that, but that's how he was able to hook me up. And you can see right here, we're sitting side by side already in deep water here. He's got to fill out his paperwork and stuff, so he was filling out the paperwork and all of that, letting me know. And actually, when he started to ask me, about my personal information, he just stopped filling out the paperwork. He says, "Okay, that's it." I said, "Well, how you gonna bill me? You don't even know who I am." He said, "Nah, this one's on the house. No problem. I was going out anyway, so it wasn't gonna take me a whole lot to get you out of here." So he went ahead and pulled me out and didn't even charge me. Well, it wouldn't have charged me. They would have charged U.S. boat towing. But for some reason, I guess he was in a good spirit, and he said, "No, it's on me." So he went ahead and pulled me out. So I went ahead and gave him a tip. I said, "Here, go ahead and grab yourself lunch on me today." So it was real nice of him to help me out the way he did. And so once he went ahead and took off, I went ahead and started my engine, and then I took off. I followed him. You can see him right there in front of me. I went ahead and followed him to the new marina that was here in Stachyahatchee. This marina just opened up a few months ago, like 6-7 months ago. So I wanted to try it out and kind of figure out how this new marina is. So I decided to go and stay there. I wasn't sure yet how long I was going to stay here. I still had to hadn't checked the weather or anything yet. But after doing this 6-7 hour crossing, I decided to stay at least a couple of days. It wasn't going to be any more really crossings where I had to be cautious, but I did have to follow the coastline of Florida, because there is no intercoastal all the way between here and Tarpon Springs. It's no intercoastal. You just follow the coastline, and in Florida you have to stay out at least anywhere between 7 to 10 miles out off the coast, because it's a pretty shallow area the whole way, all the way down. I decided I didn't have to go out that far, mainly because my draft is not as deep as other boats. So I only went out about 5 miles and kind of followed the coastline that way. And weather was pretty good. Like I said, all you have to do is watch your weather when you're out in the open water, and which I was. I'm going to be out in open water all the way till I get to Anclo Key. That's over by Tarpon Springs area, harbor. There's a couple other places, but anyway, I knew, once you get into Tarpon Springs, it was going to be, I would only be a day and a half to 2 days away from Tampa Bay. So I knew I was close. I'm almost home. But I did decide, hey, the marina is a very nice marina here. You can see it. It's right in front of us here. And I thought, hey, this is pretty nice. Marina was brand new marina. All their brand new floating docks were real nice. I had to come in and pick up fuel anyway, so I went ahead and tied up here at the fuel docks, and then went in and talked to the manager about getting a slip for a couple of days. They were pretty nice about everything. They're kind of cool and calm about everything going on. They just told me, go ahead and find yourself a slip right over here by where these rental pontoon boats are. And they said, and just take your time and come on into the office when you get a chance, and we'll sign you up. That give you a chance to decide. And I wasn't sure how many days I was going to stay, so I actually took a couple of hours to figure out how long I was going to stay here. So I went ahead and came in, tied up, and picked up my fuel here. And I was kind of looking around and was kind of watching the very beautiful docks, floating docks. They're brand new. They're well kept. Obviously, they've only started using them about 8 months ago, I think he said, is when they actually started. So they haven't had a full season go through yet. They said they do have a season here, because they do have a lot of fishing tournaments coming out of here. You can see Towboat US going by there. But this is the end of this one here, and we'll talk to you later on the next venture. Goodbye.